Does anybody else have any thoughts on how we might help this consultant and freelancer? Ooh, it's quiet.
Well, that happened to be that was my question, and I think that was a great answer. I think it's almost just like getting back to the fundamentals of understanding your audience and giving them what they need, but in this time. So this time is different. So maybe your audience wants particular advice on how maybe they should navigate right now. Maybe that's one topic without specifically covering the pandemic, but
yeah.
It's a unique time.
Do you find that your referrals are typically like marketing directors and that kind of thing?
You mean referrals like the clients that I'm attracting?
Yeah, the clients. Or are they more like
it's usually marketing managers who are looking to supplement their campaigns. So they might bring me in as a writer or as a consultant on a particular to help them get something out the door.
Okay, so what I'm seeing as I've been asking questions in the market is that, people aren't buying new things. So your clients should technically be focused on the people who already know who they are, and, that focus about creating trust and empathy and rapport with them in this time feels like a better approach. So you coming proactively at them with that kind of, I think with that discussion versus trying to like sell stuff. Just doesn't, it feels like a better pivot, which I'm sure you're reading anyway, but that's just what I've been reading as well. So
yeah, good advice.
Yeah, in that same vein, I would say don't be afraid to open up about what your own challenges are right now. It kind of helps to humanize it a little bit. And I don't think anybody really believes that, your shit doesn't stink.
Oh, that's such a good point. I'm in the middle of writing a Content Marketing Institute, article. And at the top, it's like, I'm freaking out, because I am freaking out, this is crazy. Nobody does this. This isn't normal. So I agree with you. I think offering transparency and humanity, and if you can do it with tastefully, a little humor, I think goes a long way right now. So heard. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
I think I've been doing a fair amount of it myself and sort of done things that worked and things that didn't. Just, right now you have to experiment because there's no rule book. And what I seem to be finding is that I think it's okay to be optimistic, and it's okay to sort of say, look, hopefully you don't have cash flow issues. Hopefully you don't have sort of basic survival issues. If you do have the luxury of thinking forward and thinking about something as far away as, say, July or August, when hopefully we're through this thing, what then? And sort of change the narrative to that, because in the meantime, like you said, they're not going to buy, but they might remember you in July and August. And if you can do some brand building and give them a forward-looking perspective, and then in the meantime, you've also collected data on what works and what doesn't, that'll be useful.
Yeah, that's a great point. The other thing I would add to that too is if you are also the person that helps them with the most useful, the most relevant, and the most valuable content, that when you come out of on the other side, you're going to be the obvious choice as well. So optimistic and super helpful. But I mean, this is all stuff we're talking about, right? I mean, you guys know this is,
Yeah, I think selling's out, marketing's in.
Oh, 100%. Yep.
I have one more thing. I would say when you're sharing your content of this nature on social, just be prepared to have those conversations on every channel. Because you have to be prepared for just how your voice is needed for wherever you share your content as well. So.
Okay, cool. That's great. Thank you. I'm going to move on to the next question. And like I said, if anything comes up, if you guys want to discuss anything as sort of a group, that's fine. I like the pebble in the shoe. That was actually Drake's. He said, like, that pebble in your shoe, that annoying marketing problem that just won't go away. Like now, hopefully we have a little room because we're not selling as much. We're doing more marketing to dig into those problems that have been sitting on the back burner. And it's a great time to have those conversations. So. The next one is from Linda, and she's a freelancer. Maybe she's on. Oh, Linda, is that you, Linda Shum? Cool.
Yep, Linda is on. She said, I think she said she has to be on mute because she's in a work situation.
No problem. Hopefully she can hear us when we discuss her project.
I think she can hear.
Okay, good. I help small businesses and solo entrepreneurs with their website needs and their print deliverables. How do I position myself to help with smaller projects that will be affordable yet yield impact for growth in this time of economic downturn? This is a big question. It's got multiple parts. The smaller projects I have in mind are simple updates to the look and feel of themes, optimizing content, and making websites more SEO friendly, and organizing content on the website to be intuitive. So this is, in my opinion, one of the, I think it's related to what we were talking before, but one thing that I've been advising a lot of my small, like my network, is to think about how we can take a big expensive thing and chop it up over time, so that way it's a little more palatable to people who are in those smaller spaces and in those solopreneur type situations. So if I were you, I'd probably come up with something like a service package that they would pay for over a period of time and have an end date, so they feel they can clearly see that it's not going to go on forever like a retainer might, or not forever, like we could all hope for forever, right? But a retainer, instead of a retainer, kind of focus on like a service package that includes certain elements that you know that your people are going to need over a period of time, so that they can spread that cost out over the time as well. And then it comes back to messaging, as you know, what are things that urgently need to be done right now? I would actually argue to say that SEO needs to be done right now. This is number one, because people who are actually raising their hand or our high intent customers are the ones who are going to be searching for the right company, and they're going to be doing that by researching and asking questions. And so, you know, how can you get found in you know, a tighter market? How can you get found when people don't trust advertising? How can you get found when there's such a smaller group of people actually looking for new product and service? I would say answer their questions with the best answers, right? And do that through, and make sure that they're optimized for SEO and along those lines. And then, yeah, the look and feel is a tough one. I would be curious how many people we expect to be actually doing look and feel updates right now versus survival updates. Does anybody have any thoughts on that? Like, do you guys think that people are going to be redesigning right now unless they're designers themselves?
Yeah,
I think some optimists who have the, you know, maybe are not that busy are doing kind of projects that have been on the back burner. So I think, I would think that in some cases that's true, where they feel confident enough that the business will come back and they know it's a time to kind of like fix the things that have been bugging them.
I can see that. I just worry, like if they're the solopreneurs and small businesses, unless they have like a stockpile of cash, like I don't know if they're going to be paying somebody to do that right now.
Yeah, some of the people will be too strapped and too nervous. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. I was just, I mean, I just think it's interesting. I was curious if people felt like people were going to be doing a lot of visual stuff. Carla, you took yourself off mute. Did you have a thought?
Well, I just know that we're working on our website redesign. So, I mean, it's kind of good timing for us. And we do use an agency. So, at least I'm not super involved in it because it's in our headquarters in Korea, but so that's the only input that I was going to share, is that I think it's a good time to do some website redesign and adding content there and all of that. I think that comment that Chris made about getting your content organized, and this is a good time for that.
Yeah, agreed. And I'd be curious, did you guys start the redesign before the pandemic sort of dropped on us?
We started it and then stopped it right before, funny enough. And then we have brought it back to the top of the list.
Yeah, and I will say, I feel like that's pretty indicative of what I'm seeing as well. Like I had a bunch of clients scatter as soon as things got really like schools closed and like people freaked out, and they kind of like they just went away. And then it's taken a couple of weeks, like 3 weeks, and then now everybody's taken a breath and we're starting to see projects kind of come back. And I think that I think that the fear level has gone down, and then it's great. Linda's offering some great input. Maybe a good time to reinvent and evolve for clients. I think that's absolutely true. And I think that if you are doing a good job addressing the needs and they still have a need, like I have a couple of clients that are like Apple subsidiaries, and they are, what I love about what they're doing is that they're repositioning their tools as like must-haves in an economy where you have less, you need to do more with less, right? And so I think having that conversation and making sure that you're 100% like, that you are addressing the elephant in the room while you're having these conversations with your clients will make you a better candidate for long-term work too. So
yeah, and along with like just the regular, website updates and everything, don't fine tune everything, but you could like do all your calendar slots, do your appointment consultations online, like get all that stuff checked now, like on your website. If you don't have a CDA that's like, oh, book a consultation for free right now, like you're kind of wasting like intricate time, like if not every page has that, because everyone's just sitting on the internet scrolling around. And then this is a great time too to start organizing for clients who are like, oh, I'm holding on and like I'm waiting for it. We're like, okay, so how's fall and Christmas looking? What are your holiday things going to look like from this? How are you going to recover? For like there are things like that. Linda said too. Reinvent, evolve. Landing pages, one-page websites are huge right now.
Yeah, agreed. And Linda mentioned that like maybe packages for landing pages for design. I think that's really smart, especially if like you're starting to gear up for those kind of programs. That feels really smart to me, like a very focused way to use your time and energy and your money instead of wholesale reinventing everything.
Okay, no point. Who did you call?
Oh, thank you. That wasn't Queen. Sorry, never mind. I thought it was funny. Okay, cool. So, some great comments too. If you're not monitoring that, tons of good stuff in there. So make sure that you're reading along, like Chris said. Sean actually posted something that we can talk about too. And Sean, I'm happy to have coffee with you. I'll toss you my Calendly link. And then, Chris is the king of the long form blog posts, so you should definitely read his suggestion. He just you had like a success recently. It was something like breaking the top 10 and for SEO on a particular topic. It was very cool. So he knows lots of stuff about that. So
I have a related thought, which is I've got a couple clients. I think a big trend with a lot of B2B companies is now the pandemic has forced them to say we need to do ABM finally. And a lot of people don't know how to do it. I've never done ABM before. So if you're an ABM practitioner, like feel free to let us know in the chat if you're an experienced ABM practitioner. I think there's a big opportunity as a consultant for you to go in and help companies figure out their ABM, because a lot of them don't know I've never done it before, so I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, and that's a big part of what I'm talking about lately, like the podcast I just came off of. It's about getting small. It's about focusing hardcore and getting your messaging just right for those people are the right audience, and spending more time doing that. And especially if you're a consultant and you're actually in the market right now, maybe it's time to discount your rates for a certain period so you can keep the clients on, and there's lots of things you can do from that perspective. But I want to make sure we answer all of the questions that got sent in, so I don't get off track, because I get very excited about this. So hopefully that answers your question, Lyndon, and if you have anything else, please let me know. Great, more awesome inputs in the chat box there. We have the Keith with newenamel.com. Keith, you have a lot of questions in this. Like, it's a big juicy one. Is there one we can start with that would feel high value to you? Is he here? I feel like he was here. There you are.
There's not one in particular, but it's kind of a mixture of things. So I don't know if you can kind of create a Venn diagram in your head and figure out where the intersection is that would be the most effective, but I mean, I can give everybody kind of a quick overview of what's going on. So I'm the co-founder of a teledentistry site, and very quickly we've taken a therapeutic protocol that was pioneered at UCSF Dental School about 15 years ago that revolves around a dentist doing a chairside assessment. And through that chairside assessment, asking a few questions, the dentist can determine what a patient's risk for tooth decay is, and they fall into one of 4 buckets. And from that assessment, they can prescribe and dispense the appropriate prescription products for the patient to use at home. And we've basically taken that process and applied proprietary technology to it. So you can go to our site, you can take the same assessment. Our algorithm determines what your risk level is, and we can then prescribe and dispense online, and we ship the products to your house and you use them at home. It's clinically tested, it's evidence-based, it's recommended by the American Dental Association, all those things. 97% of dentists don't do it because it's so good at reducing tooth decay. So here's what's going on. And so that's kind of an intro into kind of the challenges that we're experiencing right now. So there are a couple tailwinds. One of them is that dentist offices are not open right now. They're only serving patients who have emergencies. And they're very specific in terms of what defines an emergency. And they're doing it so they can keep patients who may have gone to the emergency room out of the emergency room. And they're also trying to save as much of the PPE and supplies that are needed in hospitals and emergency rooms and not being diverted into dentist offices. So that's one. So that's why dentist offices are closed right now. And it's on the order of the ADA. Okay. Secondly, another bit of tailwind is that you have federal and state health officials that are urging consumers to go and find telemedicine alternatives to kind of the traditional calling your doctor or trying to get into the emergency room or whatever, to take the strain and stress off the traditional system. So try to get treatment remotely, okay? But the headwind, and then the third kind of piece of tailwind is that people are stuck at home and they're eating more and they're drinking more, and they're not necessarily eating like, crudité and hummus. They're eating, Captain Crunch and Cheez-Its, right? And they're drinking a lot more wine. I'm not judging, that's just the reality. Alcoholic beverage consumption in March in the Bay Area went up 42%. So that's what people are doing a lot of. Okay?
You know what I'm doing with my free time.
Well, there you go. But the headwind is that people really aren't focused on their dental care. They're not thinking about their teeth, right? They're thinking about their paycheck, their 401k, their savings, their own health, their overall health. And so even though it's a time where you would think that we would get a pretty significant bump, we're getting a little teeny tiny uptick. And we kind of understand why, because of everything that I've laid out. But I pose it to you because I'm always interested in a fresh pair of eyes to look at this issue, and so there we go.
Yeah. So I think one thing that I think needs to probably is the unfortunate reality is people are probably not really searching your product out, which it was probably hard before, but now impossible, like you mentioned. So is there a way that you can spend your time, instead of trying to acquire new customers, probably building trust and rapport with the people who already know who you are, so that they are, when the time comes or when the opportunity presents itself, that you are clearly the obvious choice, like you have created so much value for them outside of in this current situation, that when they can go to the dentist, it's like a no-brainer for them. That's probably where, if I were you, I would spend my time. I would build loyalty, build trust, and build rapport with the people who already know who you are. So that way they turn into your influencers and your advocates in the market when there is more opportunity for you to be known. And then Carol also had a great point in here too, that the real issue is that we don't know, we've never heard of it, and we don't know how it works. So I would say probably take some time now while you are maybe have a little, you're commuting less and you're sitting at home more, and work on building the awareness campaigns and being known as an expert in your space, so that way you can.
I'll take this. I'll go away.
Right.
Those are good things, and those are some of the things that we're really trying to do. But those are really good ideas. Like we've participated in several podcasts recently.
Great.
And another thing that we've done is that, there's such a need for food right now. And one of the things that's really kind of accompanying that is the need for dental care products. So I've gone back and we've communicated to a lot of our current patients, hey, if you for the time period I think we picked until May 31st, if you purchase a kit or somebody else purchases a kit, we'll take some of those proceeds and we will donate toothbrushes and fluoride toothpastes to the neediest folks in the Bay Area.
I think that's a great idea. Living your values is a really smart move right now. And I think the other types of communications that would be valuable for you is communicating how you're taking care of your team, so that people, you're building trust with your group, and both internally and externally, but just fine tuning that messaging. And if you don't have a standout social mission, this is a great time for that. You're already doing it. Why not capitalize on that and add it to your site as a genuine reason to use you once that time.
Yeah, that's been good. And we've actually gotten a couple patients who have said, I'm not ready to purchase my next new enamel kit. However, I really like what you're doing and I want to participate. So I want to donate an amount of money that you can then use because we can purchase all these products wholesale, right? So we get great prices on everything, and then make a donation in my name to whether it's Samaritan House in San Mateo or it's whatever. So that's been good, and that's been helpful. So we're really, I hate to use a war analogy, but we're fighting this war on many fronts, because it's tough.
Times for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. So we have one more question, and I want to make sure.
Thank you, by the way. Appreciate
You're welcome. I hope that was valuable, and you got some tips out of it. Okay,
yeah.
Good. Great. So our last one that's in the doc that I was given this is Megan. She's a content marketer. She's a contractor. The challenge of marketing myself when my real skill is being able to figure things out and execute. How is that marketable to small businesses and solo entrepreneurs who may not understand the term content marketing? Oh, this is such a problem I've dealt with before. I'm so glad you asked this. Do we actually have Megan on this call? I don't see her. That's a bummer. Okay, well, I'm going to talk about it anyway because I think it's a juicy question. I have something that I've started calling handles for people, because I also, I'm part of a BNI group, and I don't know if you guys know what BNI is, but it's like a networking group, and only one person for each, what's the word I'm looking for? It's an occupation. There we go. One person for every occupation can sit in the seat. And anyway, but there are a lot of trades and thank you. Discipline, also good work. So there are a lot of trades in there. And so the idea of content marketing, just they glaze over instantly. It's like it's as though you were an engineer talking to me about an engineering project, because that's how I glaze over. But what I've been using is handles of things that people that can, let me try that again. I think I'm over caffeinated. Handles for things that are easily recognizable to people who are in that small business space. So for instance, I started with websites and website copy. I have a team that also does website development, but that was not actually my point. My point was to offer web copy, because the hard part and the reality is people they know their businesses inside and out, but they don't understand how to talk about them on their websites. How much terrible web copy have you guys seen? It's just pretty bad unless you're very intentional about it. And it also needs to follow the funnel, and it needs to answer your critical questions. It's such a big project. And so what I've been doing is using web copy as an education opportunity to talk about content marketing and the value in the long term for people. And it's oh, I get it now. And so that would be, I would probably find what works for you, Megan, who's not here, sad, what works for you, and figure out what makes sense from something your people already know about that you can use as a bridge to get them there. That's what I would do. So does anybody else have any thoughts on that?
Maureen, just to make sure I understand, it's you need the hook to get in that they understand, and then they'll start to get it as you work more with them, right?
Yeah, especially the small businesses who don't have the lexicon to have the conversation about marketing and content marketing. Like if you were talking about social media updates, like people don't think about that as content, but it is. And if that's a one of their big efforts, then you can use that as the starting point for the larger conversation about content marketing as a whole. Somebody else, I think Sean, you had your.
Oh, I was just going to clarify, is it fair to say that you need to be able to effectively digest this kind of squishy concept to not the layperson, but just people who are not literate in that language, in that world?
Yeah, I think making it palatable for them in a way that they're with a lens they already have. So that way you're not making them learn a new thing, because as soon as you make them learn a new thing, like they're going to be like, oh.
Giving someone homework. Yeah.
Right. I have a no homework policy for that reason, because like I can't stand watching people roll their eyes at me. Like it's not interesting.
Well, I also think it's important to not sound like a marketer when you talk to people, but to sound like a human, right? Because every time I get an email from a marketer trying to sell me something, I never open it.
It's terrible. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think we got another. I know we're past the 12:30 space. I have until 1. I'm happy to hang out, and I have another question that came in through chat, so we can keep going if you guys are up for it.
Let's keep going. As long as there's comments and questions, let's keep going.
Okay, great.
Or, of course, if you have to drop off, that's fine.
I'm here till 1. So,
okay.
Let's see. Currently helping a few companies rework their content to connect better with their audience. A home improvement services company is now talking about quick ways, tips, fixes to complete long pending home projects. Now that everybody is at home, and I wonder if Sanjeev, is this I feel like you're sharing, which is awesome. Oh yeah, he's just talking about how awesome. So there's an amazing sort of case in the chat that talks about how empathy is the key to making content work today. And I think that's dead on. I think that's really poignant and I think really important. Not sure if we did get any more questions. Does anybody else want to, give it a shot, talk about something that's irritating them?
I've got one for you, Maureen. It's not technically, well, it is a marketing challenge in a sense, and that is that some members of our group have actually shared with us that they were furloughed or they were recently laid off. So do you have advice for marketers who are out of work right now that maybe not looking for client work, but looking for a new job? Like, how should they be navigating right now?
That's a really good question. I have to tell you, this one's like, as a contractor who went from 8 clients to 2, but now I'm going back up again. I'm running into this myself. And I want to first say that and this is the thing I'm gently saying to myself, and I would like to share it with all of you. Like, it's not because you're bad at your job. It just really sucks right now. So be kind to yourself and be gentle to yourself. I always recommend that if you have downtime, and there's time for you to sort of be introspective, like I recommend test out being an entrepreneur for yourself. Not necessarily as a full-time job, but as a way to sort of experiment with and grow your skills in ways that you wouldn't necessarily have been able to when you were navigating the risk of under a company's umbrella. So I always recommend that people start a small brand so that you can mess around with things that you didn't have access to before. I think that's a great way to use some extra time. I also would say, be patient, start a garden. There's nobody hiring right now. Well, that's not true.
Someone posted an article that I thought was interesting, was free certifications, tech certifications that are available right now. So do Google AdWords or, other type of things to build up your resume.
Yeah, and if you take that approach and you do the resilience perspective on that, what is the most resilient piece of marketing? Is it marketing operations right now? I don't know. That's a really good question. It might be that. It might be your data analytics space, and I know that's not the most popular, but I think it would have the longest legs, and it would probably make it easier for you to get back on the market faster. Would you agree with that, Tom?
Yeah, the MarTech landscape just came out today.
You saw that.
The data area was the biggest grower. So I think data is expanding. And so any skills you can add and analytics type capabilities are always going to be valued.
Agreed. Jake, what were you going to say?
Something that's really helped me too is like, being a part of a co-working community that actually kind of has adapted and pivoted and has moved to a virtual membership. I mean, like, it's nice to have a co-working space because you can go in and talk to people and like, do your work, but hang out and still be a collective. And so like, if you're not a member of a place that allows you to, I mean, yeah, happy hours can get a little extensive after a point, but it's just like, the chats and like the lunches or even just general chat is just super useful to like, bounce ideas off of and then do like local gigs, to do smaller things. Find partners. That's a great thing you can do right now is find local people that you can be life rafts together with, like join hands, start like working with people that are, so they're fringe. They kind of touch on some of the services you have, but you haven't touched those services in a while. Yep. Whatever, work together, throw them a bone, like you guys are only as strong as you are. Like, yeah, exactly. You got to join hands. You got to be together because like, it's all the corporate giants are. That's how they're surviving, really, honestly, so it's like that's how we can survive.
Yeah. That's great. That's a good point. And I am actually part of 12 different Slack communities as a way to stay connected to my market, because I have been largely virtual because I live in a suburb outside of Seattle, and going to Seattle is a very expensive trip for me, not from a money perspective, but from a time perspective. So I found that like broadening my market, my virtual market is really useful and can be done through community. So Mighty Networks has a bunch of communities. You should definitely get part of that. I'm actually also part of the virtual Riveter community, and although they're running in their own complicated blockers, it's also been a great way for me to sort of connect with people. I also go to every virtual coffee that I can find, and I at least have I have a coffee, like a jump off coffee with at least 2 people that I meet in those groups, everything from a virtual, the counseling couches that are being put out there from business coaches to general communities to marketing specific communities. Also, Twitter is alive and well. Nothing has changed on Twitter. Everybody's still there and they are extra active because they're just hanging out. So this is also a great way to make connections. And if you're doing, anyway, there's just a ton of virtual options. I have more opportunity to connect with people personally than I have ever before because everything is so virtual and I don't have to spend a lot of time traveling. So I would say that there's some great resources people are putting into the chat too, so check that out and make sure that we can share those. But there's just a ton of opportunity, even though it feels hard and scary. And don't get me wrong, like I'm measuring my stress and cookies and booze right now. So I hear you and I'm not like minimizing the fear, but it's, hey, I have a Facebook group I started yesterday in case anybody wants to join. It's one of those things, you're not alone, and making use, balancing processing with making the best of your time is probably the best approach if you are out of work.
I think the other thing that works is, and I've been through several recessions, is go to people who work for free.
Volunteering is a great idea. It's a great way to
not just volunteers. I mean, I've gone to a couple of businesses and say, I think you need X. Do you agree? Yes. Okay, I'll do it for you for 2 weeks, and then they'll remember you. And you're not making money anyway.
That's totally true. It's actually something I talked about earlier today on my podcast. Was I was talking about specifically like, why not work for a reduced rate? Like, it's more money than you were making before. And if they're already your clients and they already love you and they already know you, like, why wouldn't you help them through this time? So at the other end, yeah, you're totally right. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or if you're in the middle of a project, for instance, that's another great point. Like, they're going to drop in the middle of the project. Are they not going to survive because this didn't get done? So what, like, is this a way you can help them? I agree with you. Drake, were you talking?
So nonprofits are still there. They're still struggling. They're still trying to do stuff. Find a nonprofit. Just, redo their website, like sharpening your digital sword, just.
Yep. Perfect. All right. If anybody wants to join my booze and cookies group, just reach out to me. I'm Maureen at SuperDeluxe Marketing. I'll totally add you. Awesome. Well, I don't have any more questions, but I certainly enjoyed being here, and I so appreciate everybody's time. And I hope that if you had questions, you got them answered. And it was I really appreciate you all chiming in, because we're all smart. There's no reason why we can't benefit from the collective.
And Maureen, I just plugged your post from last year on Content Marketing Institute. I would say, in addition to working for free, I think it's really important, especially if you're in the market for a new job or new clients, to get published. And so Maureen has a post on how to select a topic when you're going to pitch to a blog or a website to get published. I think it's important right now to share your expertise with the world.
Oh man, ain't that the truth?
Because you might fall into someone who comes across your post and reaches out to you. Like the whole inbound, it's all inbound marketing for yourself.
Agreed. Absolutely. Yeah, that's why I'm doing my next content marketing world post and I'm in process. And I'm also finding that these networking groups are just so awesome. I meet somebody new every time. I learn things from everybody. Like I've just had such a good time. They've been a real pleasure and like it's okay, Carol. I'm not actually looking for that. I'm just looking to meet new people. Sorry, we're having a chat. Anyway, but it's really great to be here. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, Maureen. Does anyone have any closing comments or thoughts? Rich Schwerin, I saw you joined recently.
Well, Dennis, I'll echo what you said. I think the brand building is a key thing right now.
Yep.
Writing could be, spend a day writing a great post, as was mentioned earlier by Chris as well. So great idea.
Yeah. Get yourself out there.
Awesome. I can't wait to go to the ones where you guys are all the experts. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. There's one tomorrow, so I'll post a link to tomorrow's meetup in the page for today. And we're still going, we're going through for as long as we're online.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, and everyone. See you soon. Stay
Bye.
safe.
Bye. Thank you.